You described the language of thought. You talked about the language of thought, and you said that you thought of semantically interpreted representations in the mind or something like that. At the same time, you denied that human concepts are referential or refer to anything in the outside world. So my question is, what do you mean exactly by semantically interpreted when you talk about the language of thought?
Semantically interpreted?
Yes, for the language of thought. What does it mean? Is this a matter of connections to the sensory motor system too?
Okay, so the computation, an internal language, like any computational system, is starting with certain atoms of computation. Now, like atoms, they can be analyzed internally in other ways, but for the point of view, from the perspective of the computation, they're atoms. So this would be things like river, or tree, or expect, or so on, things like that. The computational operation makes complex structural objects out of these. The complex structural objects have a meaning. So you construct which books did the boys read. It's going to have a meaning. The meaning will be read off from the fact that what you have is which books the boys read which books, which means essentially which are the books such that the boys read those books. That's a thought, okay, or at least the basis for a thought. You make it a full thought, you have to bring in other world knowledge and so on. But that's the framework of a thought. And the language is constructing infinitely many of those. That's the language of thought.
I understand that that's the language of thought, but then we need, for the thoughts to have meanings, the atoms must have meanings too. And given that you say that the atoms don't refer, there is no representation relation between the atoms and other things out there.
So take again.
So the semantic, what does it mean for the atoms to be semantically
interpreted?
Meaning,
right. All of this derives from the meanings of the atoms and the structural relations that are built up from the computational process. So what is the meaning of the atoms? Well, I'm just talking now about the simple ones, the ones that are used in the act of referring. Referring is an action, right? So I can refer to that thing over there as the sin, let's say. What exactly is the relation between the word river or sin, a specific name, and that thing over there? That's Heraclitus's question, okay? So if you cross the Seine this morning and again this afternoon, why is it the same river? Well, when you look at that question, it turns out to have many puzzling properties, such as the ones I mentioned. Radical changes in the object will leave it as the same river. Almost undetectable changes in the object, like a phase change that hardens the surface, and different forms of usage, different forms of usage will make it not a river at all. Actually, this is a point noticed by Aristotle. Aristotle discussed the concept house. Actually, he did it in metaphysical terms. We'll drop that. By the 17th century, this was reinterpreted in cognitive terms, the way it should be. So I'll do that. So take the word house, Aristotle's case. In his metaphysics, house is, the concept house consists of two dimensions, form and matter. Okay, so the matter of the house is bricks, stones, timber, and so on. The form of the house is the intention of the designer, the way it's regularly used, and so on. So if the designer had in mind something else, maybe the designer had in mind a garage, okay, then it's a garage. It may look exactly like a house, but that doesn't matter. What matters is partly that, of course, that's the matter part. But what matters is the intention of the designer and the characteristic use. And that seems to be true for everything, which means that part of the meaning of the simplest words, those are used to refer, is our ways of thinking about the concept. That's distinct from, say, apes and monkeys, or any animal we know, where the symbolic elements do relate to some physically identifiable phenomenon. So if you take, say, a monkey, which has a warning call, leaves are moving, so you issue the warning call. There's a relation between that call and the motion of leaves. If you think of, say, a physicist trying to discover what meaning is by looking just at the symbol and what's referred to, the physicist could figure that out. You could see that whenever the leaves move in a certain way, you get such and such a call. That's universal for non-human languages, non-human symbolic systems. For humans, it won't work. You can't look at the symbol river and the object over there, and from that determine when the symbol is going to be used to refer to the object. You have to know what's going on in the mind of the speaker. That's the core meaning. When you get to more complex notions like, expect or want or desire, any more complex notion is going to be even more remote. But for the simple ones, the ones that are used to refer, it's already totally different from animals. And again, the evolutionary origin of these concepts is a complete mystery.